Liz has to open up the next meeting.
Oh, yes, right. Okay. So I'm calling this meeting, Committee of the Whole meeting to order. So welcome, everyone. Reminder that if you don't want to stay after your check presentation, don't feel bad about that one bit, because you can always watch this live, or you can watch it on our YouTube channel. It also airs on Tell-Il for the next 7 days.
She's fun, she's high energy.
Hello? Okay, I will begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here today in Unama'ki, the land of the fog, a part of Mi'kma'ki, the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people since time immemorial. We honor and thank the Mi'kmaq for sharing their land and home with us. So you have an agenda in front of you that was circulated last week. Are there any errors or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt as circulated. Moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any discussion on that? I see.
Amanda's online.
Okay.
We just can't see her yet.
Okay. So all those in favor of adopting the agenda as circulated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. So we will review the minutes before we move on to the food bank presentations. So in your package, for those folks following along at home, it's on pages 4 to 8 of your electronic package. And those are the minutes from the last Committee of the Whole meeting held on October 14th. So I'll entertain any discussion of errors or omissions. Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion to adopt. Moved by Councillor Marchand. Can I have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Brent Sampson. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. So I see some folks online. We have Deputy Warden Mumberket, who is at meetings in Halifax tonight, so thank you for joining us online. And we also have our two presenters are online, and so we want to welcome all of you and give you a moment to grab a tea if you'd like, because we have some quick presentations to do to our food banks. We do donations, and we're going to do some check presentations, lickety-split. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of Council and all the residents to welcome the folks that are here today and to say a hearty thank you for all the work that you do. And so we have some checks to present to you, and we'll do our little photo, and then you're welcome to stay if you like.
Okay. So she is coming to open up the vault and get them. So
Great.
We'll do the pictures and then
Yeah.
we'll give them the checks.
Great. Okay, so the first food bank presentation. Miss Agnes, are you here from the Madame? Okay, so Councillor Sean Sampson and I will take a photo with Miss Agnes. Just you?
Yep.
Okay. So this envelope is empty because the checks are locked. And if somebody's on their way.
Yes, okay. Not a problem.
Oh,
Just get that out of the frame.
I'm going to check that it's not just an envelope.
Awesome.
no, it is just an envelope.
The checks are coming. They got locked in the vault. She's on her way up to get
On
them.
behalf of the Madame Food Bank, I want to say thank you so much. This means a lot to us, and we appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much.
Do we have somebody from Loosedale? Was Loosedale coming? Okay. Okay. So I see Steve from, and who do you have with you?
Elaine and Sally.
Oh, I didn't see. Oh, yes, there's. It's in the back there. So come on up. We'll get Councillor Sampson, always the best dressed, to get his picture taken with you. Come on up.
They're just playing.
They're on their way with the actual actual checks, they got locked in the vault.
Took a carload.
Thank you.
Hand it off to you.
Getting closer and closer here.
You're gonna get us all in there.
Can I get one with you on the other side, maybe? There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Great, thank you.
Thank you for
Say
coming.
something, Stevie.
Huh?
Say something.
Well, certainly, on behalf of Lord West Food Bank with Social Action, thank you. This is an initiative that I remember being part of many years ago, and really, really pleased that council has seen the importance of assisting the work that takes place at the various food banks across the county, and yes, it will go a long way to support us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Come on down. I'm sorry, I don't know your names. I forget. Come on down. Oh, you're with different food banks. Oh, he doesn't do pictures, is it?
No.
And is this, and your food bank
St.
is St.
Peter's,
Peter's?
yeah.
All right, so Deputy Warden Mumbercat sends her best wishes, and I will take the photo.
I'll Photoshop you in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there in spirit
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, wait, I didn't even give her an envelope. There we
There
go.
we go.
Oh, just to be in your presence.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Oh, you're
And
very
Thank all
welcome.
of you for deciding again to give this donation to the food banks. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
It does help a lot. It really does.
Yes, and we're very grateful for all the work that you do. We know that none of that happens without volunteers putting the hours in, and I am sure that the stories that you hear are difficult, and I'm sure that there are difficult days in this role, but you are doing God's work for sure, so we're very, very grateful. So the checks are coming.
They are. She's on her way.
We can, if you don't want to stay, we can mail them to you if that's easier for you. So, but you're welcome to stay for as long as you like. Okay, so thank you for your patience, for those folks who have been sitting and waiting for us to move on to the presentations. That is our next item on the agenda. We have two presentations to council this evening, and the first is Laura Emery, Chief Executive Officer of the Eastern Counties Regional Library, and she is going to speak to us today regarding the Eastern Counties Regional Library funding overview. So for folks who are following along at home, you can find that on pages 9 to 19 of your meeting package, and you'll see it up on the camera here if you're in the crowd. So I'll turn that over to you, Laura, and clerk, I'll let you get her hooked up. Well, her camera seems to have turned off. Do we want to get... Do you want to move to Martin, or?
Yeah. Flip the order?
Do you want to flip the order? Is that easier?
I might have to stop this
Yep.
meeting and let them back in, okay?
Okay. So we're kicking you out, but we'll bring you back. Oh, okay. Okay. There we go. Oh, we've got some people now. There we go. Okay.
Laura, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Laura or Amanda? No. Do we want to ask? Is there a reason why it has that little, like, exclamation point on the Teams? Is it possible?
It's just that I have two accounts on the browser and it keeps on me to put.
Would a different device work? We'll work on that as well. Okay, so we'll turn it over to you, Laura.
Okay, just bringing up my presentation. Sorry,
That's okay.
technical difficulty. Can you see that or
No.
no?
No.
Ah, there we go. Something's happening.
Oh, good.
We see the screen, which is your Zoom call.
Yeah. One sec. How's that look?
We see your face twice.
Oh, no.
So you're sharing your screen. Do you have two screens opened?
We'll try here. And my apologies. We're having difficulties here. Okay.
Oh, something's happening.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yes, great.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience. Yep, great.
prerequisite for really getting worked out. There is a split, so 71% of the funding is provincial, 26% is municipal, and 3% is the library board. Now, all of the amounts that everyone pays are determined by a provincial government funding formula, and it's usually a 5-year formula, and the current formula has expired and has not been replaced yet. And this is part of the difficulty that we're facing. Even though it was definitely a big improvement, this funding formula really didn't meet the needs as we had additional one-time relief grants starting in 23, we had another in 24, and we've had 2 in 2025, 2026. So this current budget year, we received 2 one-time grants. And this was extremely helpful, and we're certainly appreciative of this. It was the result, or it came after much effort by all library regions in the province. We've certainly been doing our part to work towards a solution to try and find a way to fund libraries that meets everyone's needs. I participated in a provincial library funding review committee. This committee was tasked with bringing recommendations forward to government, which it did. We don't know, like the recommendations went into the Department of Communities, Culture, Heritage and Tourism, but we don't know what they took forward to the rest of government. It was an excellent opportunity to really do research and get the data to show how libraries are effective and how libraries do need more support. Locally, Keith McDonald, the CAO for the Municipality of the County of Inverness, also served on the committee. And it was an excellent opportunity to bring forward really local input into this library funding problem. Salaries were the main critical issue. There was an HR study, a salary study commissioned by library regions in partnership, and it really compared salaries in libraries to salaries across Canada and other sectors, and it just overwhelmingly documented that library folks and workers in Nova Scotia are not paid in an equivalent fashion, and certainly are deserving of a better wage. Eastern Counties is pleased that we've managed to get our branch library assistant positions up to $20 an hour. That was decided in this budget year. It may prove challenging in future budget years, but it's really critical to focus on moving towards a living wage for all staff. The current situation. So in the budget, the provincial budget, regional library systems did not receive a funding increase, but they did receive one-time relief grants. So those one-time relief grants aren't part of the permanent regular funding, which is important to note. A new provincial funding formula was not implemented in April 25, even though the old formula was expired. Regional library systems did work together very well and advocated successfully for this budget year to get those additional one-time relief grants. But unfortunately, we have heard in an informal manner, like her informal channel, that because of the overall economic situation and the instability, status quo funding for 26-27 is probably a best case scenario. And, our funding challenges, I'm sure you're not surprised by any of this: sustainable compensation and living wages, collection, we always need more books, more movies, digital services, downloading, streaming. Internet technology access is a really high priority for the public. Equipment needs to be constantly updated and maintained. And we have significant infrastructure maintenance and capital purchasing issues. So our regional office facility requires significant repairs and upgrades. The board really looked at selling if that was feasible, and it really was not. So work is beginning on this building. As well, we also need a new vehicle for our branch visits. Without real financial future information, it's difficult for the board to make practical decisions guidance regarding capital expenditures. It's difficult for us to plan. And, what's really needed is a modernized, sustainable funding model so that we can continue to deliver these vital services and support government priorities across the province. Our goal, and we've achieved it, is that public services remain stable in this budget year, the 25-26 budget year. But we do need the help of our municipal partners to prioritize library funding, the library funding formula with the provincial government. And we'll certainly be working hard to prevent service declines in 26-27 by advocating with the provincial government and engaging with our municipal partners. I think 26-27 is probably workable, but it's just, is this the beginning of a trend? Like, we really need to be concerned about getting that library funding formula in place and clarity around funding. I have that, thought everyone would enjoy a preview of the new St. Peter's Public Library location. Work is ongoing, but it's starting to come together, and it looks really beautiful. Staff have been working very hard shelving the books and organizing, as we love to do at the library. So that's just a positive note. Thank you very much for the support for the move to the location. To wrap up, are there any questions?
Are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
great.
no
Yeah.
problem.
So, go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Thanks, Warden. Great to see that progress, Laura. It's very exciting and a long time coming. I did want to let folks, watching now, let you know that sustainable and modernized funding for libraries continues to come up at gatherings at the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. It came up in sessions that we have in here in Halifax just last week. So I guess I just wanted to say, please know that this is a conversation that is continuing to push forward by municipalities.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. And yeah, we wrote a letter back at the end of June asking that this remain top of mind for the NSFM and to consider it an advocacy issue. And we were at the Federation of Municipalities meeting this past week, and it certainly was a topic that came up in a number of discussions.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Go ahead, Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Warden. Laura, where does this 3%, you have it 3% for the library board? Where do you raise that? Is that just fees or?
Well, it comes from a variety of sources. Obviously, donations, bequests, grants, fees for printing, and we often get quite a few little donations from folks visiting libraries, which is greatly appreciated. So we also have some other sort of regular yearly grants that contributed to it. The Street Area Education Center makes a grant so that we can purchase youth and children's collections at our Port Hawkesbury and Nauvoo location. So it's not really our end of it that does the accounting as kind of a provincial thing, but we're certainly overachieve on that. I think as we move into potentially a period of funding decline, we're going to have to look at really trying to do more fundraising. But the problem is everyone, that has economic difficulties and needs the library more. And we really hesitate to ask our user group to contribute in a lot of ways. People aren't fixed incomes. Seniors use this quite heavily, young families. It might be, I'm certainly open to suggestions about how to increase those opportunities. But we work hard on that as much as possible, certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for our presenter? Hearing none, thank you very much. We appreciate the important work that libraries do, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us and to be generous with your vibe as we went through that technical issue there. So thank you very much for your patience as well.
Oh, no, thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness on this matter. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Take
See you,
care.
Laura.
So our next presentation is from Cameron Martin, who is from the Economic Consulting and Advisory, ACOM, and Martin Thompson, who is here in person with us this evening. He is the Manager of Energy Sector Development with the Municipality of the County of Richmond and Town of Port Hawkesbury. That's a shared position. And they're going to speak to us regarding the business case and options appraisal for establishing an offshore wind center of excellence. So I apologize again to Cameron for you not being able to see us, but Martin is here front and center, and we can see your presentation. So whenever you're ready, we are.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Am I on here? Yeah. I'm going to kick us off here. So thanks everyone for allowing Cameron and I to speak to you today. Quickly, well, the warden introduced Cameron for me. I had it in my notes to do that. That's all good. Cameron is joining us virtually from Toronto today. So up on the screen, here's the agenda with the topics that we hope to cover in the next 20 minutes, followed by a Q&A. I will kick us off, provide a bit of a background information to the project before I hand it over to Cameron, who will then take you through the findings of the report, which is also part of your package, I believe. And I will then, after Cameron is done, I will close us off with some information around next steps. Cameron, next slide, please. Okay, so I know I went through some of this when we presented the infrastructure strategy earlier this year, but I thought a quick reminder would be in order. So the project we're talking about today forms part of a larger program of activity that was initially led by the Strait of Canso Offshore Wind Task Force and the Cape Breton Partnership. Before the municipalities agreed to host it. So in addition to this project, the Offshore Wind Centre of Excellence, the program also includes the infrastructure strategy that was presented to Council in January, as well as the staff position that is myself. So this project we're talking about today is a province-wide assessment of offshore wind-related R&D activity and how it relates to industry needs, but with a main focus on three areas of the province. So Strait of Canso, CBRM, and HRM. And a few things came together when the idea for this project was initially conceived and drawn up. So firstly, a few years ago now, a group of people from Cape Breton Strait area participated in MIT's Regional Entrepreneurship Accelerator Program. And through that process, a local priority around a local ocean tech and offshore wind research and accelerator hub was formed. And around the same time, the province of Nova Scotia was learning about the Renewable Energy Catapult initiative in the UK, and they were interested in understanding how something like that could look like in a Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canadian context. And thirdly, as mentioned, the task force was also very interested in pursuing this idea and hence sought to bring it all together in this project. So Cameron and his team and the project overall has been overseen by a steering committee consisting of representatives from Municipality of the County of Richmond, Town of Port Hawkesbury, Boatletic First Nation, Net Zero Atlantic, Marine Renewables Canada, Atlantic Canada, Opportunities Agency, and the province of Nova Scotia. And the work went out to tender and eventually was ultimately won by ACOM. Next slide, please, Cameron. So I know we're fairly limited on time, and I want to give Cameron as much time to go through the report as possible, so I won't spend much time on the slides, but these are the areas that made up the scope of work that went out for tender. So I'm happy to go back to this if there's any questions around it, but for now I think we'll leave it at that. So I'll hand you over to Cameron, who will go through some of the findings from the report.
A self-sustainable offshore wind center of excellence. So we started the project by assessing different offshore wind centers of excellence around the world. So Korea Catapult is the main one mentioned by Martin out of the UK. But in addition to that, we looked at the European Offshore Wind Deployment Center, Research and Innovation Center, the Gulf of Maine Floating Offshore Wind Research Array, as well as the Academic Center for Reliability and Resilience of Offshore Wind, which is also down in the States, in the northeastern coast. And what we found across these centers of excellence when we assessed them in terms of how they were created, how their governance mechanisms, and how they operate from a funding perspective, we found 4 key common threads that exist across all of these. So innovation and technology readiness, really the development of offshore wind across all comparable regions, it's not an easy feat in any of these areas. There's numerous examples where there's various obstacles that they've had to overcome that could potentially derail offshore wind development. And what we found is that these offshore wind centers of excellence can really help to prepare both the region for development of offshore wind, but also help with more of the stakeholder component to that. And that leads me into the next point, which is stakeholder and community coexistence. And in a lot of the examples that we found from comparable regions, local community perspectives of offshore wind, as well as both industry considerations, play a big role in moving this forward. So commercial fisheries and environmental considerations have been a key component that we've looked at in the Nova Scotia perspective. An engagement with a large number of stakeholders to promote collaboration across the development of offshore wind is always a key component, and transparent communication lines are always a key aspect of this as well. Third component is regulatory challenges, and this obviously varied across each of the jurisdictions that we looked at, but as the market progresses, regulatory uncertainty can cause issues within the private sector as they enter a region without knowing exactly who to go to for what or how they navigate a certain component. We want to acknowledge that a lot of progress has been made with Bill T49, so we're making great strides towards that clarity and how things should operate. And there's a role for an offshore wind to help Center of Excellence to help progress this further by bringing everyone to the table and helping to ensure that everyone who's hoping to enter the market has a clear understanding of both regulatory components they need to adhere to as well as the overall market. The final point is the region supply chain and workforce development. And we found that these offshore wind centers of excellence can play a strong role in creating and help facilitating a strong supply chain within the region, but also workforce development components. And we've seen this throughout different regions, such as Scotland, where they've really helped promote that. And we think with the right conditions, it can help support and facilitate the growth of offshore wind and help to attract further investment in the region. In addition to the desktop research, we've conducted stakeholder engagement. So here's the summary of some of the various stakeholders that we've engaged with throughout our time. We've sort of grouped these into different buckets. So we've had academia, industry, research, and academia as well. We've had the research organizations, industry, and government. So we've structured in that format, and we've done site visits where possible to all these different groups as well. Key messages that came out of stakeholder engagement is that there's really a lack of a unified voice within the offshore wind community. A coordinated initiative that brings together stakeholders would help to align priorities and strengthen advocacy efforts within the development of offshore wind. We also acknowledge that the economic impacts of offshore wind are expected to be uneven across Atlantic Canada, but there's a role to support the transition through workforce development, applied research, and regional economic strategies. Given the nascent state of the industry, it leaves many unanswered questions, which we've uncovered throughout our research. Specifically, what we found is through the economics of offshore wind, so how it's going to be developed, where's the energy going to go to, et cetera. But strengthening collaborative efforts to solve these obstacles and barriers in a collaborative way is a key component that an offshore wind center of excellence could form and work towards, as well as an inclusive governance model with equitable representation is essential for building trust and moving forward with this initiative. And that goes back to the various stakeholders we worked with and met with, fisheries, environmental groups, Indigenous communities. It goes across the board, but that's an important component. Off of this research, we've sort of derived 4 different problem definitions that we seek to create an offshore wind center of excellence around and help solve. So the first one is research and innovation constraints. So there's valuable contributions from existing organizations, Net Zero Atlantic, Offshore Wind R&D Forum, and the Roundtable. offshore wind priorities grid integration study, the supply chain study by MRC, Strait of Canada sustainable infrastructure study. There's a ton of work coming out of Nova Scotia from various groups, but these efforts, in a sense, remain fragmented, and I think bringing them all together under one roof could really be a valuable initiative to help move the industry forward. The second problem definition that we've identified is grid integration and transmission constraints, as well as market end use. So really, where does the energy go? Who's going to use it? On both the federal and provincial stage, progress has been made in terms of finding a viable path towards identifying where this is going to go. But we still think there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done in terms of both the research side of things, as well as the applied side of things, and how this is going to play out. And then in addition to that, international uncertainty, just, it's putting the offshore wind market in a state of flux with political developments south of the border. A lot of offshore wind projects have stalled in the States, so that could be implications for the supply chain and projected future developments in Canada. So these are the things we want to think about and how an offshore wind center of excellence can help contribute to solving these problems, or obstacles, rather, as the industry is facing them. So off of this, we've developed a mission and objectives, as well as 3 areas of focus for the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence. So the mission of the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence is to drive growth and transformation in Canada's offshore wind industry by breaking down barriers, delivering innovative research, and fostering sustainable ecosystems. The intention is to create an organization which has the capability to unlock the full potential of offshore wind in Atlantic Canada, accelerate industry development, and position Atlantic Canada as a global leader in offshore wind energy. Off of this, we've started working on the governance model and how we can look at how the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence will actually operate, and we've derived 3 different areas of focus that the revenue-generating streams would be derived off of. The first one being the innovative catalyst, a research hub, as well as a testing and validation site. The innovation catalyst, would act as a bridge between industry stakeholders and government bodies, as well as potential investors coming to the region. In a sense, a facilitator service. So going back to that point of a single hub or source of knowledge within the offshore wind sector that can help to move things forward, share knowledge, collaborate on projects, and align efforts towards a common goal. Fostering partnerships would be a key component of this as well, and helping to facilitate organic growth within the sector. The research hub would drive collaborative research across the different bodies that are currently conducting it. So really bringing academia in alignment with industry, as well as different organizations and stakeholders that are involved in the sector, going back to the fisheries and environmental component as well. They would be a key aspect. And it's been divided into sort of the triple bottom line component, so looking at both the social impacts of offshore wind, the economic impacts of offshore wind, as well as the environmental impacts of offshore wind. The third component is more of a long-term plan for the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence, but it would be creating a physical testing and validation site within an area surrounding one of the WEAs. That could serve as a pivotal catalyst for actually conducting applied research and helping to facilitate innovative growth within different companies across Nova Scotia and the wider Atlantic Canada region, providing an area that they could test their product, helping to move forward with that. Also, I think it's a fantastic way for workforce development. With NFSC pushing forward with wind technician programs, I think having a physical testing and validation site would be extremely valuable as having hands-on research for any people taking that course. I think it's a 2-pronged approach in that sense, so I think it could be extremely valuable to create. I'm just going to go over the business model right now. So we're looking at a governance model. And what we did is we assessed, given that there's a number of different organizations that already exist within the region, we wanted to assess 3 different options. 1, embedding it within an existing organization. 2, creating an entirely new organization, not to compete with those existing organizations, but to complement them in a certain way. And then the third option is looking at a hybrid option. So this is initially embedding it within one of the existing organizations that operate within Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canada. And then as it grows and the market grows, having this Offshore Wind Center of Excellence mature into its own organization. So we scored these 3 options against 7 different determinants, 1 being financial sustainability, industry engagement, research and innovation capacity, policy and regulatory capacity, workforce development, operational efficiency, and decision-making, and governance flexibility. And we've derived that the hybrid option is the preferred option moving forward. It allows for the most flexibility, but also allows the organization to grow as the industry matures. The Offshore Wind Center of Excellence can mature in parallel with that. We also looked at the operational model from a financial perspective, so looking at both projected costs and revenues of creating this organization. And we've derived 4 different revenue-generating sources, one being research services, data subscription revenues, seabed subleases, and workforce training. And what we've done is we forecast these over a 15-year period with a phased approach to growth. So looking at starting slow, having this organization be embedded within an existing organization, and as the industry grows and matures, bringing on additional people, employees, as well as additional services to help it grow in a phased approach. And what we found is that these estimates indicate that by year 15, this could be a self-sustainable operation. And I think it's also key to note on this slide is that I would say of all of the organizations we've identified through our jurisdictional scan, there's been a heavily reliance on federal funding to both spearhead and sustain these operations. The UK ORIA Catapult is a key example of this. They seek to meet a third model where 1/3 comes from federal funding, 1/3 comes from collaborative R&D, and 1/3 comes from the private sector. And they really haven't been able to meet that goal. They still rely on federal funding to help promote this. So I think it goes back that this at the provincial and federal level is an initiative that would really require that backing to help sustain it and move forward as it progresses. I want to focus on this as well, which is the relevance to the Strait of Canso. And what we find is that the Strait of Canso represents one of Nova Scotia's most strategic energy and industrial corridors. So the deep water port and the established marine infrastructure and existing grid connectivity is a key component that is really important to offshore wind as well as this initiative. We think that its geographic proximity to the designated wind energy areas positions it as a natural hub for offshore wind development and operation. So having that existing connectivity as well as industrial base to support whether it be power to X or hydrogen production, it's a very important component of this moving forward. Partnership opportunities within SCC, Strait Area Campus, and it's right there to develop hands-on training programs through the offshore wind technology program, marine safety, as well as direct educational and research pathways through the Ocean Innovation Center. Could really contribute to establishing the Strait of Canso as an anchor location within Atlantic Canada's emerging offshore wind sector. It's a key component, and it really goes back to workforce development as well. We think that its location relative to NSCC, as well as the Ocean Innovation Center, is very, very key to the progress of this initiative. The report is summarized with a range of key recommendations, and we picked out a few that are pertinent to this meeting today at Council. And I know we're just slightly over time, but I'll run through a few of these. So really, adopt a phased mission-led organization, going back to the organizational model. So a phased approach to growth, broaden the assessment to development of an offshore wind center of excellence to Atlantic Canada, as this study was subject to just Nova Scotia. Work with existing organizations throughout Atlantic Canada. So again, spreading that stakeholder engagement across outside of Nova Scotia to the other provinces. Establish initial funding available through funding streams for this offshore wind center of excellence. Establishment of a volunteer board of directors representing key stakeholders for offshore wind, including fisheries, Indigenous communities, government, community leaders, academia, and private industry. Position the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence as the first point of contact for global developers seeking to enter the Atlantic Canada market. Development of a research arm for the Center of Excellence, and the development of a testing and validation site to support workforce training, ocean data, and research. So I'll pass it back to Martin, and he can run through next steps with the study.
Thanks, Cameron. Yeah, I'll just be 2 minutes talk about next steps. Yeah, so as you can see, the final report, which is part of your packages, was published last week, 6th of November. It lives on www.thestrait.cancer.ca. Obviously, we're presenting it here today, and then we're doing it for the town of Port Hawkesbury at their committee of the whole next week as well. It's really the intention that this work, this report, can act as a foundation for a few things. So firstly, inform further work. We do think engagement with stakeholders in all of Atlantic Canada and maybe also the eastern US could add value to the business case of this initiative. As you can see from some of Cameron's slides, kind of due to the scope, engagement was fairly limited to Nova Scotia for this one. It could act, generally is a good tool to market the offshore wind opportunity in Nova Scotia. There's a really good analysis of a lot of organizations that are doing work in the sector, a lot of infrastructure narrative in there as well. And there, from that, encourage partnership working between a wide variety of organizations here. And then finally, inform program and project development initiatives around offshore wind research. And we are actually already seeing such an initiative forming off the back of this work that Cameron and the team have been doing. Cameron, next slide, please. So Dalhousie University is currently leading quite an ambitious initiative that seeks to connect the dots between a lot of offshore wind research activity and at the same time addressing specific challenges in Atlantic Canada. It's quite a broad partnership coalition that includes universities and colleges from across Atlantic Canada as well as abroad, as well as different government, NGO, and industry organizations. And it actually seeks to achieve a lot of the same aims that have been identified in the ACOM report here. And indeed, you can see Municipality of the County of Richmond and Town of Port Hawkesbury are participating in this project as collaborators. An application for $24 million was submitted to the federal 2026 Community Transformation Competition, but it was unfortunately ultimately successful. It's a highly competitive funding competition, that one. But this partnership and collaboration is still ongoing, and other funding opportunities are being identified and pursued to kind of kick this off the ground. So I'll end it there, and Cameron and I will be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much to both of you. Appreciate the work that went into this and tonight's presentation. Do we have any questions for the...
Thank you, Warden. Martin, I don't know if some of these comments I'll have or questions are for you or Cameron, but on page 4 of the document, you speak of the study limitations. Very bottom of page 4. And you say the collected data may not capture the perspectives of underrepresented or harder to reach communities, such as remote communities and smaller fishing groups. Additionally, the engaged stakeholders might have had vested interest at play, which could lead to overemphasizing specific issues and undervaluing others. This could skew the analysis towards the priorities of a particular group or stakeholder. What do you mean by that? Like, that's concerning when I read that. I would have assumed all the stakeholders that you have listed in the presentation were spoken to. I'm assuming by that statement they were not all spoken to?
with and discussed in terms of how we can move forward with the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence, both to gain their insight into how they see it being created as well as the progress moving forward with it. But that statement was intended to imply that we weren't able to reach certain communities throughout Nova Scotia that were more remote. But everyone we did note within the report was met with and engaged with for this project.
And you kind of speak to, I guess, I'm paraphrasing, but if we speak to others, the results would be a lot different. Why do you anticipate that? Some people won't support this Center of Excellence? We've spoken
with, I would say, a wide range of stakeholders with this engagement, meeting with both with communities in Cape Breton, across Nova Scotia. But yeah, it's hard. There's always a sense that when you're conducting stakeholder engagement that, you know, in any survey you could say, is that the population and the data you're collecting from this isn't, there may be variances with that when you're widening that engagement. And our scope of work was in a sense limited to what we could really conduct. So when you know that it may change, or like I guess the findings may change if we were to engage with more people, we might have found slight variances within what we found with our assessment, but I wouldn't say that like the overall narrative from our assessment would widely change, as I think we did a strong stakeholder engagement with a wide range of stakeholders across Nova Scotia.
And if I could just speak to that, I think having done some research for master's degrees and whatnot, this is a fairly standard thing to say in research or when you're doing engagement. You're really saying up front that we acknowledge that we could have talked forever and a day, but there are always limitations on studies, and I think it's just meant to not try to overstate the engagement that you did. So it's a fairly standard part of engagement literature. Go ahead, do you have anything else?
Oh, yeah. Cameron, on page 35, when you speak of the green hydrogen market uncertainty, and that's concerning to me, thinking that, or knowing that we spent $200,000 to $300,000 on a domestic offtake study, of which $25,000 came from this municipality. What's your thoughts? It's on page 35, the green hydrogen market uncertainty. And it says, and I can read it if it's better.
Sure, maybe not everybody is able to. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the green hydrogen has been proposed as a solution to absorb excess offshore wind electricity, converting it into storable and exportable energy carrier. However, the hydrogen economy, relative to offshore wind, remains in its early stages, with limited large-scale demand and no established export infrastructure in Atlantic Canada. While the European Union has expressed interest in importing green hydrogen and ammonia, significant challenges remain, including the high capital and operational costs of electrolysis, complex transportation logistics, and the need for long-term offtake. So I get the impression you don't think that's going to happen.
No, I'm actually quite keen on the green hydrogen market. That's more factual than just stating it as is. Like, the European Union has the best interest in importing green hydrogen and ammonia, but there are challenges that remain. Not to say that these challenges aren't able to be overcome in that sense. There's high capital and operational costs with this. There's transportation logistics. There's need for long-term offtake agreements if it's going to move forward. But, those challenges, they exist with any industry. I wouldn't say it's a red flag. I think, with starting any nascent industry, whether it be offshore wind or green hydrogen export, there's going to be challenges that exist.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that's
great. Deputy Warden?
Thanks, Warden. And I would just, I guess for me, that language, to your point, Cameron, it is factual. It's something that we've, I spoke with the Atlantic Hydrogen Alliance today in terms of making sure that key messaging is accurate, that it's, tempered. The optimism is wonderful, but it needs to be tempered with reality so that we can address the challenges ahead. But I would also suggest it's exactly why we need to start doing the planning now for domestic offtake. And I think that's, it's up to us to create a local market while we're ahead of the game. If we wait too late, then we're going to miss that opportunity. So anyway, I appreciated seeing that statement in there, and I'm glad you brought attention to it, Councillor Marchand, because I think, I've said from the beginning, cautious optimism is warranted here. There's an opportunity ahead, but we need to be realistic about it as well.
So I'm mindful of the fact that our 15-minute presentation has gone quite long. Is there anybody else who has any final questions? I would just go ahead. Last question. Go ahead.
Last question. Yeah. Well, I don't know which one to pick.
I know so many. I'm sure you could email your questions as well. Yeah.
I guess the point system that you put for CBU, 3 out of 5, and the Verschuren Center as 4 out of 5. When I think of when I think of the Verschuren Center, I think of CBU. And when you think of CBU, the president or the chancellor that's there, Dave Dingwall, he has quite a few connections. So to say that he can't advocate and has no industry connections, I think that's far-fetched. I mean, they brought a medical school there that other universities haven't. We know that they've obviously traveled the world to bring quite a few international students to that university and pretty much double the enrollment. So I'm pretty sure that's a university that definitely has some connections with industry. And I mean, if they were put up to the challenge, I'm sure could help this situation out. The last thing, I guess, is the finances. Where do you anticipate getting? It seems that for the first 15 years, there's quite a shortfall here. Where do you anticipate getting that? Like, we're talking, you know, $3 to $4 million of a shortfall. These salaries seem pretty high to have this, and this is obviously all government money, subleases and money that I assume these leases and the seabed subleasing, that's coming from companies that would be putting these in place. Is that where that's coming from, but the rest would be government money?
Yeah, exactly. So seabed subleases would be a revenue stream component of the Offshore Wind Center of Excellence, but the total cost is exactly that. So the P&L pre-funding shortfall is, circa 1.5 for the first 5 years, and does continue along that path. But from what we found in our jurisdictional scan and research from other offshore wind centers of excellence is that you're correct in assuming that 99% of them do rely on federal funding, or provincial funding in this case, to move forward with the initiative of actually creating this. And it needs to come from that top-down approach, I think, to help facilitate this, because there is a bigger component and benefits that are derived from both a strategic economic growth perspective for, at a federal level. And I think we could see that through the recent government's, initiative in terms of picking 5 major projects, and offshore wind being shortlisted as one of them. In the next stage, it's got to come from the top down to assess, like, this is something we want to achieve, to move forward with it. It does take a big ask to move forward with more of a grassroots approach for this initiative, and I think it shouldn't be left to that. I think it should be coming down from federal level or provincial.
Great, thank you very much. We're going to end it there. We really appreciate it. Any councillors who have any additional questions, by all means, we would encourage you to send those off to Martin, who can get some of those answers. It's a lot to digest for sure, and no action on our part at this point, but certainly gives us an opportunity to delve into what opportunities and what the art of the possible may be. So thank you again, and apologies again for the taking a little more time to get you going than we would have liked.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so back to our other agenda items. For folks who are following along at home, there is a large report embedded in our package tonight. So our next item is new business, and we have a couple of those. And the first one is found on page 168 to 192 in your package, and that is increases in fire protection rate for the St. Peter's, Sampsonville, and area water utility, as approved by the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. So there is a memo, briefing note attached. Is that something? So page 168. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. And as always, when increases coming for council consideration hit us, we try and get it to you as quick as possible. We received this with the new increases over in St. Peter's earlier this year, and it's in front of you simply to make you aware that these changes will need to be considered as we go into our budget deliberations later this year as well, in the next year.
Yeah, so before I get to you, I'm going to ask, because mine is a clarifying question, so maybe yours will make more sense to me. But because this is the Sampsonville and area water utility, Is this the recommendation that they're making to us for their fire levy rate?
Is it not? UARB made this, but,
It's a hydrant rate.
right.
No, they submitted a rate study.
They did.
Yeah.
That went up
This is the results of the rate study.
from the UARB. That's the order right there.
Same people that we get to do our rate study. Right, Chris? Yeah. And these are the results.
Yeah, and I'll confess that the relationship between the municipality of the county Richmond and the village of St. Peters is still something I'm new to, and so it's not as smooth as when our own utilities are involved. But is this something that they are drawing to our attention because they are required to, that takes us through budget deliberations, and that this is their obligation to inform us?
Well, they have to pass it on to us because the water rates will be on the bills that we issue, if I'm not mistaken, added on to the village, is it not?
No,
Okay.
we don't, they look after their own water and sewer.
Did you want to say something, Deputy Warden?
Yes, I would, thanks, Warden, and, I think I'd like to put forward a motion that's to help us out a little
Yes.
bit, and you hit the nail on the head. So I'm gonna word it, and Shelley, I'll send you the wording if that's helpful. But what I'm thinking is to enable council to enter into budget deliberations with a full picture of our current relationship with the village of St. Peters, including the water utility, and to help us build a path forward on a solid and informed foundation, and in keeping with our strategic plan goal on leading and engaging stakeholders to strengthen our relationships with other local governments, including the Village Commission. I move that we recommend to Council that a subcommittee be struck of Richmond County Staff and Council, inviting village staff and commissioners to participate for the purpose of reviewing the full scope of the county-village relationship and to provide an update to Council prior to budget deliberations. So that's my motion, and for context, and you know what, councillors who were there last term, you would remember what we did on fire service with Port Harcourt. I'm suggesting the same thing, and Troy, I believe you were there for that as well. Or I can't remember if you were.
Just after.
But anyway, yeah, just after. So essentially, could we get like a municipal councillor or two, yourself and whoever you deem, appropriate from our staff to work with, maybe a commissioner and staff there, put together a complete informed overview, and maybe even deliver it in a workshop type of setting, so that, to your point, Warden, we all are proceeding to budget deliberations on the same solid ground of information.
And I think too, 3 years from now, there could potentially be 5 different people sitting around the table. And I think the relationship with the village is something that is an important thing to have clarity on, and having sort of, some documentation that would show the relationship, and to kind of a primer on how we go about this, because it is a bit foggy for me.
You're not long.
Yeah, so so there's a motion on the floor, and it is, in all of its words, it is to strike a committee to help move us to budget deliberations with more information regarding this relationship. So is there anybody interested in seconding that motion? Seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. Any discussion on that? Councillor Marchand?
What really do we need to know? The information has been presented here by Kathleen. Like, what are we looking at to get some understanding of the relationship? I think we all know they are a separately operating government entity. The village itself, they manage this utility. There was an agreement that was formed between Richmond and the village when the new utility got created. Do we dig into this deeper, or?
So what this misses is, and we just talked about if
Carry
you
on.
don't
Yes,
mind.
go ahead.
Yeah.
We just talked about the lack of clarity. We're all feeling it. We also recently have talked about the appointment of, people to the water utility, and is that our role? We also have a CCBF policy with that. We also, we do tax collection on their behalf. They need to get approvals for certain types of financing through us. All of this needs to be mapped out so that we have a full comprehension of the relationship. And we set that out as a goal a couple years back. And I feel like we've worked on the person to person, the cups of tea type relationships with the joint committee meetings, and that's important. But what I'm missing, I think what we're all missing is that whole piece, and a piece that will outlast us together, right? Be something that we can draw back.
And I still am not sure why it's in the package. Like we talk about, you'll say it's its own entity, and yet here it is in the middle of our package, and it was required by them to send it to us. And I'm looking through this report, looking for a suggested motion, and I don't see one where we see those in every other staff report we get. So I'll acknowledge that 1 year in and some work on policy, and I attend the meetings, but I personally don't have clarity, and I am mindful of the fact that, as I said, 3 years from now, a whole bunch of new people could be sitting around the table. And, Councillor Marchand, this is your, 13th year going into your 14th year. We don't all have the benefit of that much time on council. So I'm mindful of my own, and I'm concerned I may not know what I don't know. And so that is a concern to me in any situation. So any other discussion on that, or Councillor Brent Sampson?
I feel like this kind of thing could probably be just a staff report mapping this out rather than some kind of subcommittee. Like, it seems like we're overcomplicating something. And I'm not saying it would be able to be pulled together quickly. I mean, I know there's a lot of intricacies to it, but I would feel it'd be more appropriate just to have a staff report laying out this relationship so everybody's clear. But that's just me.
So, go ahead. Deputy Warden?
And Councillor Sampson, typically I would agree with you, but I'm also very cognizant of the fact that our staff capacity far exceeds the staff capacity of the Village Commission, and I would like to give an opportunity for the policy discussions to be part of a report that comes back, and to kind of help even that up a little bit and even the playing field. So that is why I'm suggesting, councillors, because normally I would agree with you, but in this case, there are just some differences between our two entities that I think it would be beneficial to have, even if it was just one of us, and of course I'm happy to volunteer for that. That would be my next thing that I would commit to. I don't want to put any work on anybody else. But I do think that just, when you look at the number of staff that we have and the number that they have, I really think that the support of the commissioners and the council would be really helpful to this.
So what I'm going to do is ask if Councillor Brent Sampson would like to make an amendment that we could vote on, or if you want to accept that. So if you want to move that thought forward, you could move an amendment, see if you have a seconder, we could vote on it to see if changing the spirit of that, which is no elected, just staff, or we can consider the rest, we can move on with Councillor Deputy Warden Mumberket's sort of explanation.
Yeah, I'm comfortable to move an amendment that this be a staff-led initiative at, given when they can, I guess is what I mean. I don't think it's any panic in the sense that we've gotten along a long time like this, but it could provide some clarity going forward. So basically that just the staff report comes back through collaboration with the village.
So we have a motion to amend the original motion to remove elected officials from that conversation, essentially. We have a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any discussion on that? I'm going to offer my comment on that. I understand we've gotten along all this time. You're talking about, on the first page of this, 4.2% increase, and 26-27, a 19.89% increase. Like, I think just because things were, running smoothly before, whenever we talk about the wildly escalating costs of infrastructure and costs associated with water and wastewater and any of those things, I think there is a sense of urgency now that there may not have been before. So I appreciate that things were going along, but we're talking about some pretty significant increases here, and how we are connected to that is a concern to me. So any other comments on the amendment to the motion? Councillor Marchand?
Trying to understand your statement. Can you make it simpler for me, I guess? You're concerned about these rates, and this is just for information for when we budget next year. We need to know that, the amount's going to be considerably more. You're going from 181 or 88 we paid this year to 200 and something thousand next year.
I'm responding to the Councillor Brent Sampson's comment about, whenever we get around to this, I think that people are much more attuned to what is happening around water and sewer because of the significant increases. So I think where people might not have been concerned about a 2% increase, I think there are going to be more eyes on things, and I would have more confidence if I had a clearer picture. So there is an amendment on the floor, motion to amend, and that is to take council elected officials off the group. So both very good arguments. Deputy Warden has spoken. The Deputy Warden has spoken. Councillor Marchand, Sampson has spoken. Deputy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I guess the other thing I would maybe just comment on the relationship side of things is that, in the strategic plan we talk about, strengthening those relationships, and it wasn't relationships between staff of different. It was relationships of our municipality with the village commission. So that's another reason why I think I would kind of want to stick with my original motion. Yep. But as long as it moves forward, I'd be pleased.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment now, which is to move forward with this work, but to do so strictly with staff, so to remove elected folks. So all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
No, nay. No nays. So the motion does not pass, so the recorded noes are Deputy Warden Mumbercat, Warden Landry, and Councillor Sean Sampson. So that brings us back to our original motion, which is to strike a committee to investigate this with elected and staff. Are there any other comments on that? I think we've spoken on that.
Yeah, for me, I'm in agreement with Councillor Mumbercat, Deputy Warden Mumbercat, and yourself, Warden. And we gotta better understand and strengthen this relationship with the Village of St. Peter's long after we're not at this table anymore. So I think it's just looking into the future to make sure that this relationship stays a strong one. So, thank you.
Great. Okay, we've had much discussion on that. All those in favor of the motion, which again is to strike a committee to work at this a little bit, which includes elected and staff. All those in favor signify by saying yeah, aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, recorded noes are Councillor Brent Sampson and Councillor Marchand. Okay, next item, so that motion carries. Next item is the grant request from the Friends of St. John's Arishat for Tier 1 community grant funds in the amount of $800. And folks, you also received in your inbox earlier the grant funds booklet, which shows how much money you have. So there is a request for $800. That request information is on page 193 to 203 of your package. St. John's, the Friends of St. John's Arishat is in District 1, but certainly intertwined with District 2. And so I will say that I will match, District 2 funds will match what District 1 thinks. So I think that that's only fair, and I'd let District 1 councillor speak to that.
Thanks, Warden. And yeah, I was going to put the pressure on you, but I guess you took the pressure off yourself. Hey, that's good. That's good. I like your approach. Looking at our regional fund, I know that there's no funds there remaining, so I'd be willing to put a motion forward to take 400 out of District 1 and hopefully 400 out of District 2 to fund this $800 request. Thank you.
On the floor for $800 to go to this request, with $400 coming from District 1 funds, $400 coming from District 2. Seconded by Councillor Marchand. I will say that I know they have estimates here, but this is a group that is doing really important work and hosting a lot of community events, and to be able to offer people tea and coffee is a really significant way for us to get people in the door, and so happy to support. So any other discussion on that?
You're okay with him giving your money?
I'm sorry?
You're okay with him giving your money?
I said I would. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we share on Almadam, Councillor Marchand. You should try it. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Next is allocation of surplus funds and transfer from the municipality's operating reserves. You can find that information on pages 204, I believe. And there is a briefing note there, and it does talk about previously discussed and committed through the budgeting process. And by committed, I think that was just the conversation that we had in the last day or so of our budget deliberations. And so what the motion that is being suggested from the Director of Finance is that Committee of the Whole recommend that Council approve the transfer of $909,500 from the operating reserve as follows: $500,000 for landfill closure, $200,000 for the strategic priorities of Council, $189,500 for the solar PV project, and $20,000 for the Eastern County Regional Library Hub project. So I would be interested in getting a motion on the floor to that effect so that we could debate it within a motion. Moved by Deputy Warden Mumberket. Do we have a seconder? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Marchand is seconding. So that motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion on that? I know it may seem like not much conversation from us if you're just joining in, but this was a big topic of discussion at our budget deliberations. Go ahead, Councillor Marchand.
I guess it's a little off of this, but do we have a motion for the renovations at the arena that's committed an amount of money so that our director can start on getting some work done? Is there some motion that staff is aware of that they're going to start purchasing? Because we were told in the spring they would need to start that in the fall. So
my understanding, CAO, would it be fair to say that we are, unless something changes, expecting a staff report at our Committee of the Whole in December, which is earlier, so it'd be about 3 weeks from now, with good news, information about what our options are and the costs associated with that. And I do want to take a moment to say a shout out to our public works staff, because December 1st is right around the corner, and I know we have said this many times before, but there is a pretty significant work being done around circular materials and extended producer response, ERP, extended responsibility for producers. And we are moving, EPR, yeah. So we are, and we are moving to doing our own garbage collection effective December 1st in 2 of the 3 zones, which is a significant savings and just better service delivery for residents. So because of that, which is a top priority for us, we are expecting a staff report which speaks exactly to your point at the next Committee of the Whole.
good news for the arena?
That's all.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
That's good news.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm not trying to put you off. It really has been a busy month to get us to December 1st, so looking forward to some information. So back to our motion, which is as laid out here. Is there any other conversation about this debate about this motion on the floor?
Call the question.
Okay, so I can't do that, but they taught us that in school.
No, I don't
Can't do that.
anymore.
That's a debate. That's a motion to end debate, and it's a whole passed by 2/3 majority. I know. Okay, so any other discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Finally, under new business, write-off of inactive tax accounts. So there is, again, recommendation from our finance department to write off the principal and interest associated with some accounts that we got information for. So I'll read the motion that is being suggested. That Committee of the Whole recommend to Council to approve the Finance Department's request to write off the principal and interest associated with the attached inactive accounts in the total of $33,137.34. Moved by Councillor Marchand. Can I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. Any discussion on that?
Is exactly what's in here public?
So what is public is the account numbers without the names. So what is published online is redacted to have the account holder's name removed. The account numbers are public, the names are not. Okay? Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. So the warden's report is attached. Don't know if anybody has any questions. It's on page 210. Hearing none. So I have an item. It's not really specific to District 2, so I'm happy to just sit here and push us through this. And the motion that I'm suggesting is attached. And so if nobody would move it, then it doesn't. That speaks to how well it would move forward. But essentially, many things changed. During COVID and after. And one thing that we did a lovely job of leading up to COVID was volunteer recognition. And I attached a picture from the reporter about what I believe is the last one. I think this was the last one that was held. And you'll see just an ocean of people there. And I've been struck by some of the people that we give a shout out to at Committee of the Whole that we actually don't have. So somebody who spent 48 years with the fire department and people that we don't actually have a way to recognize. And I was struck when I read the governance, so many reports, but the governance in fire services actually spoke about how recognition is more than money to a lot. I think that speaks to what most volunteers will tell you. They just, be feeling appreciated is really so significant no matter what field that you're in. And so I'm not suggesting that we have to, one advantage to COVID, not that we want to, speak to advantages of a global pandemic, but because there was a long stop in these, it does give us an opportunity to rethink how we might do volunteerism and to be mindful of funds. So, could a snacks and as opposed to a sit-down meal. So all of those things are possible and only within the governing, within the budget process. But I've written a motion, which I'd happy to entertain somebody moving that or something else, or if nobody else thinks it's important. But basically, I'm hoping somebody would move that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that staff, and I think that this is a good bit of work for the Recreation Advisory Committee. So with advice from the Recreation Advisory Committee to explore the opportunity and costs associated with a volunteer appreciation recognition event, doesn't have to be a banquet, to be considered for budget deliberations.
I'll move that.
So moved by Deputy Warden. Did you have your hand up there, or did you have a question?
I did, but I'm happy
Okay,
to wait.
so moved by Councillor Marchand. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. So open to hearing from folks. Deputy Warden, was that what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I guess rather than, specifically saying an event, I'm wondering if we could ask staff to check in with volunteers in the community to see how, what they would like. Because I do think, like, I looked at that picture, and I think you're right, that was the last banquet. But that was prior. That didn't stop because of COVID, as I recall, because we would have had one in 2019, right?
Oh, maybe.
COVID didn't hit. Yeah, I think the county stopped that in advance of COVID.
Oh, could
and
be.
then COVID hit like a year or two later, right? But I do remember it being a struggle sometimes to get, as a person who volunteers in many organizations, to find people who could attend on our behalf, and just because of timing, or sometimes it was weather or whatever the heck it was, right? Or could be, in this case now, deer, that type of thing. But I just wonder if, instead of saying specifically event, could we ask the Rec Advisory Committee to check in with volunteers?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
See, do they like what we're doing now? Is that enough? Do they want,
Sure.
would they like something else? Maybe it's a little segment on Tallil, like it could be anything, right?
And we've interested in hearing what other municipalities do, for example, and I know one of the things that I felt as somebody, I remember I was on a particular group and there was 5 people, and it was like, okay, who's going this year? You going this year? Because after 5 years, everybody had already gone, and I am mindful of somebody who has worked on one thing for 3 months, was sitting right next to somebody who spent 48 years working on something. So I think there's all kinds of ways. It's not meant, the motion isn't meant to even specify, but I think the Recreation Advisory Committee has the capacity to kind of explore that. And all I'm asking is that we bring that back to budget deliberations with some ideas and what the costs associated with that would be. Councillor Marchand?
Yeah, it was ended well before. It had nothing to do with COVID. More had to do with the municipality losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in the industrial park and having to find some cut somewhere without increasing the tax rate, because it was quite expensive to do it. And there was a lot of staff time, as Shannon can attest to, just in preparing for it, trying to get the whole event. So I moved this with the intention of having some discussion just to see if there's something different we can do, see if the volunteers like what they're doing now with getting some gift cards and being recognized. And as everyone has said, I've been on volunteer organizations, and the discussion was always, oh, I went last year, I went the year before, or whatever. And sometimes you couldn't find somebody to go. So I don't know if it was a true way of recognizing them. I definitely don't want to go. I mean, it was costing thousands and thousands of dollars then, and I'm sure post-COVID pricing is going to be double. So, I want to be mindful of what we would spend on something like this. Thank you, Warden.
Go ahead. Councillor Sampson.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the same stuff that I remember it being sometimes referred to as the rubber chicken circuit, and who will go this year kind of thing. And then specifically even in the fire department, having a hard time even in 15 or 20 people to find someone to go. And it's not that people didn't appreciate it, but they felt, we felt obligated to send somebody because most people had gone already. Now, to others, it was, it was probably very much more appreciated. But I think what the Recreation Department's done with the current program has been really good to spotlight people throughout the year. I think right now what's happening is, in a sense, better than previously, because people get a little bit more recognition out of this, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that, I'm not and I apologize, I really did think it was COVID that brought this to an end in my naivete. But, seeing the sea of people there, I certainly understand. I'm not actually even remotely suggesting that we go back to that. To Councillor Marchand's point, the rubber chicken right now would cost 3 times what it did before. But I do think there are, we've written a letter to say thank you to somebody who got a provincial award, and we don't have a mechanism to say, well done. We have a fireman who's going to be 50 years on the job, and we don't have a mechanism. So we do celebrate 12 people a year. So we may choose to do nothing. I just think it's something we could explore. Councillor Sean Sampson?
Yeah, for me, I think you just hit the nail on the head, Warden. We do celebrate 12 people in the run of a year, 12 very incredible volunteers that are nominated by their groups. Having said that, those 12 volunteers would probably tell you there's a lot more volunteers behind them. An example is the Irish Community Development Association, this beautiful playground we have right up here on top of the hill. There's people that spearheaded that project, and good on them. But there's also volunteers that put that playground together, maybe 20, 25 volunteers, right? So for me, yes, let's acknowledge the 12 and, whatever, but behind those volunteers are other volunteers, and I'd rather them say, I can't go this year, or I went last year, I'd rather not go this year. I'd rather say that. I'd rather see that happen than just not acknowledging them. I was part of those banquets in the past for minor baseball, so there was many of us as coaches that went. So I would, the more you can expand acknowledging a volunteer, I think the better off we would be, right, in my opinion. Thank you.
And I think it's about that balance. I think it's about that balance, right? We want to celebrate and we want to bring together, but at the same time, we are mindful of expenses, and we also don't want to water it down by having so many people. So it's just an exploration. It's not more than that.
Yeah.
Last comment to you, or two comments, Councillor Marchand and then Deputy Warden. Go ahead, Councillor. Did you press it?
I guess people could look back at the Tell-El videos of early 2019. What was decided then was to bring some of the volunteers and recognize them at council. Be interesting for people to watch that.
It doesn't, we don't have to end anything. It can be something else. So again, not trying to be prescriptive here. Deputy Warden?
Yeah, I would like to maybe suggest an amendment to the motion that's on the floor right now. So the amendment would be to add in addition with advice from the Recreation Advisory Committee and checking in with volunteer organizations to explore the opportunities and costs associated with volunteer recognition. Appreciation/recognition, just remove the word event, because they may come up with something totally different, right?
Excellent. So the amendment is to reference specifically speaking to volunteers and take out the implication that it's an actual event. So that's a motion. Sure. Yep. That's the recommended, that's the suggested amendment. Anybody want to second that? Seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. So all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. So is there any, did you have a nay? Nay to you? Okay. So a no from Warden Brent, Councillor Brent Sampson on the amendment, but that motion still passes anyway. So any final discussion on the new motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. So moving on to CAOs. You have the CAO's operations report. Is there any questions you have for the CAO or? No.
I'll try and do better than.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so community acknowledgements. I am very pleased tonight to speak about October's Volunteer of the Month, Francine Stanton. Francine's kindness, compassion, and attention to detail make her truly deserving of this recognition. As a Meals on Wheels driver, she delivers more than meals. She brings care and connection to residents across the county. Her warm smile and friendly presence brighten the day of everyone she visits. Francine also assists with packing and organizing incoming meal shipments and helps with client satisfaction surveys. Additionally, she manages supplies for the VON's hygiene closet to ensure clients receive essential personal care items. Even in her spare time, Francine continues to give back by volunteering at the Arishat Food Bank. Please join us in recognizing Francine for her hard work, dedication, and commitment to her community. We thank you for all you do. So Francine is from Lockside Road, the off of Rifle Range Road. I don't even know what that's called. But so right in the middle on the lake there, and fairly new to the community. She and her husband moved here. Her husband was a basketball coach, but my husband actually drives for Meals on Wheels, and on the odd time that she's not there, he does her run, and they always ask where she is. So she's where is she? She is really, really well liked in the Meals on Wheels organization. And as we saw tonight when we did the presentations to food banks, those folks hear really difficult stories every day that they're in those places. And so people like this who do that work are really important to our community. So we're very grateful to Francine, and thank you for your work and your contributions. So before I throw it over to see if anybody has any other acknowledgements, I do want to say thank you to all the legions and community halls and folks who took the time to host the events that make Remembrance Day so significant in Richmond County. They are always incredibly moving events, and grappled with some ugly weather this time around and made changes and on the fly, but really managed to have just extraordinary events all over the county. So thank you to our veterans, and thank you to those who continue to support and remember our veterans. Anybody else wants to offer anything? Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Thanks, Warden. So I just want to say congratulations to the Gay-Pride Partnership on a successful investor summit at the end of October. They hosted it in Quebec again this year, and I think it was one of the biggest crowds that they'd had, and some really fantastic, engaging presentations, and award recipients as well with their Impact Awards. So a huge congrats to them. And I also wanted to flag that SEPI Youth are hosting a youth forum I think at Member 2 Trade and Convention Center next week. So congratulations to Teresa Haroon and her SEPI Youth group who are advancing that work. And I wanted to just mention, if any folks would like to get more information on that and look to attend, they can reach out to me and I will get that info to them.
Thank you very much, Deputy Warden. Council? No? Okay, great. Okay, so moving on then to correspondence. Our next item is 3 items that require action on our part. So the first is a letter from Andre Sampson, Lardwa's Christmas Parade, regarding an invitation to participate in the Parade of Float and Lights, and that's on page 220. And so I think this is related to whether groups want to enter a float in the parade. So we can just make note of that. I don't think we need to direct staff to explore this.
And it's the same, sadly, it's the same night as our appreciation night. Right. So I don't know if we'll have any staff or council available to take part because we're going to be otherwise engaged at the exact same time. Right. We have some folks getting recognition for years of service with the municipality. So we'll leave this with Councillor Brent Sampson to pass our regrets to the Lardwas group and wish them all the best with their event. The next one is from Raising the Villages Cooperative. So this one is a request for funds for 2 specific gatherings, and both of those gatherings are happening in this fiscal year. I had to scroll down to find it. Yeah, March 26th, and then, where did I see the date? Shoot. I had a hard time finding it. It was more about planning the second event. I didn't see an actual date for it.
Yeah, and so maybe that's what I couldn't find. And so it's unclear whether the first event is in this fiscal year or if it's in the next fiscal year. But definitely it's $1,000 for each event they're asking. And the first one is expected to take place in March, so at the very end of our fiscal year. And it's the regional well-being. So throw it out to anybody who has any motions they may want to consider. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Deputy Warden, did you have your?
Yeah, I just had a question. So would this be considered sponsorship? Is that, and then we would come out of that budget? I'm just not clear on where we are with that budget right now, in terms of what's left in there.
The grant booklet.
So I think that's in our.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's in the grant?
so it's in the grant booklet. Yeah, that's okay, brand new. We started attaching that because of that question that came up. So it's included there. And so the total committed or spent is $6,050. And what was the?
It was 12 or 15,000 that was in that
Yeah.
GL.
So there is money left in that sponsorship. I believe that we could, have our banner fly in this event is something we could do.
We do support them every year through the budget process of funding contributions, so, and I know, we had discussed that it didn't seem like a lot was happening in Richmond County, and then suddenly there is, so maybe planning for something in Richmond, so, I think we do contribute to them regularly anyway, already.
They are planning, one of these events is a workshop in Richmond County, right, like that?
The one in March 26th this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the one that
No,
that is happening late, it's gathering to Richmond County
Number 2?
Intergenerational Health Fair. That one
But it's
is happening in Richmond County.
It's not even for the event.
Yeah.
So it's based on the one that happened at Bay St. Lawrence, which and so, and I guess to be fair, based on how, I know that we have committed to doing an earlier budgeting process, but we didn't pass our budget till June of this year. So anything that happens prior to July 1st, I certainly can understand why organizations would come to us in this fiscal year for the next. I don't see a date specifically here, but it is supposed to happen in Richmond County. So what the ask is, 2 $1,000 contributions to plan for 2 events. One, a date is established in March during this fiscal year. The other, the date does not appear to be here, and it's related to planning something that has typically happened in this, it's called the Spring Health Fair. So we have money in the sponsorship budget. So if it is not the will of council, then there would be no motion go ahead, Deputy Warden.
So the first one is happening at Bob Cook, right?
Yes.
And it would be just a straight sponsorship. The second one is for organizing, planning, and actually holding the gathering. So, and it is here in Richmond County, although I don't think I saw where. So I'm willing to support this, through the sponsorship budget if there's room. But what I would suggest is, I'd make a motion to support the March 26th Logmacook Regional Wellbeing Conference at $500, and the Richmond County Intergenerational Health Fair to be held in Richmond County in early 2025 at $1,000 for our sponsorship. That's what I would.
Sure. So we have a motion on the floor. I have some comments, but I'd like to open it up for a second to get to those, to the point where we debate. Okay, seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. I guess I'm happy to support, this is a group that does work based on the EDI, which is meant to support families as they support children. And there have been at least 2 presentations to this council that I know of. I know because I did one of them on the results of the early development inventory and the impact that has on communities. And so work that supports families across our community in a broader sense is important work. So I'm happy with the $500, and if it doesn't get there, that's fine too. I'm also happy with the $1,000 for an event to happen in an intergenerational health fair is significant. I guess my only concern is so long as the event happens. So the plan, so, you know, I would be more comfortable giving $1,000 for the event to be held on to while there's a commitment for it to happen. So if it is to go to planning and then somehow it didn't happen, then I would feel that wasn't money well spent.
Yeah, like an amendment could be like conditional on both of those events actually taking place, you know?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So do you want to move that amendment so that it specifies?
Sure,
Okay.
I'll amend that, you know.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Can we have a seconder on that amendment so that it's contingent on them actually happening?
The event's happening.
Right, yeah.
So you're funding the event, not the plan.
That's right, yeah. Is that, yeah, okay. So moved and seconded, seconded by council. I feel like I'm narrating for you, Deputy Warden, because you can't see. So seconded by Councillor Sean Sampson. And so the motion on the floor then is to give, through our sponsorship grant, $500 to the event that is taking place in Wagmacook and $1,000 to the event taking place in Richmond somewhere, contingent upon them happening through our sponsorship grant. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those, sorry, Councillor Marchand, do you have something, or are you?
Okay, you're voting on the amendment?
No, we did already.
You did, okay. Guess I didn't hear you. I guess I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So we're discussing the amendment.
You're right, Councillor Marchand.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's move on the amendment. So the amendment is that we amend the original motion so that it is 500 and 1,000 contingent on the events happening. 500 and 1,000.
500 for event number 1,
And 1,000 for event number 2. Contingent upon, yeah, contingent upon the event, because it actually talks about planning. Okay, can I do that? Or do you have something to say about the amendment?
No, it's not. It's just about the whole thing.
Okay, so let's get the amendment done then.
Okay.
So all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. Recorded nay. So now our motion on the floor is $500, event 1, $1,000 in Richmond, event 2, contingent on them happening. Go ahead, Councillor Marchand.
It seems a lot of these organizations coming for money, and this one, like all others, we spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on events and things like that. On page 2 of this, they speak of social isolation, and they say it's increasing. We're spending a lot of money on that already. We have 2 or 3 people employed to look after these things. They speak of housing and food insecurity, and that's continuing to rise. They say that services are fragmented and siloed, and it's often difficult to access. Here we are again now, supporting another group that's looking after these things. More and more people are coming to us because these are the nice buzzwords today. We throw that out, social isolation, food insecurity, and oh, we're going to get money. And that's what it is. Like, we have people already looking after these things. And as Councillor Sampson said, once we, said that they weren't doing events in our area, now we're planning on doing one in our area. So I'm not going to support either the amendment or the motion because we're spending enough money in this stuff already, and we'll have more groups coming to us for using these buzzwords to get money. So I can't support it.
Go ahead, Councillor Sampson.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I don't have a problem with supporting the organization in principle, and that's why I think it's a good time at budget deliberations to discuss supporting them throughout the year. But I'm not really, I don't have any interest in this because I'm not sure if it was just sort of created to try and get extra out of us at the end of the day.
Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Yeah, I can understand that perspective. I guess I just wanted to share mine, is that what I see Raising the Village is doing, and when you look at the people involved in planning these particular events, they're yes, we're investing in these things now, but what they're trying to do is, because they're in it and they see the issues, they're trying to come up with solutions to bring people together to address the issues that people are facing. So I really see this as a part of what they're doing to try to solve some of these issues in our community. And so that's why I'll be supporting it. But thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your point that things are increasing, but they are increasing, but for these groups, they would be increasing at a greatly accelerated rate. And social isolation is significant. The bingo in Discouse is just, you have an increase in senior population and a decrease in the number of people who can get to bingo and can afford to go to bingo and so on. So, we look at solutions differently, and so we'll give you last word, Councillor Marchand, and then we'll vote.
Let's take some of this money and hire a student, cut the trees on the side of the road. People wouldn't have to worry about hitting deer, and they go to your bingo, because I hear they don't go because they're worried about hitting deer. It's a better spot to put it.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, which again, $500 for event 1, $1,000 event 2, contingent on those events happening. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we'll record Councillor Marchand and Councillor Brent Sampson voting no, and that motion carries. Last motion for action, last correspondence for action is the Nova U15 Hockey Major Team Annual Media Guide Fundraiser, page 224 in your package. Happy to defer this to, is it perhaps Deputy or Councillor Brent Sampson, do you want to speak to this, as I believe it relates to something in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it was passed on to me, but it's not really local to me in the sense that, they're it's just a media guide where they have people on this U15 hockey team from Guysborough, Antigonish, Inverness, and Richmond, as well as parts of Victoria County. So it would be an advertisement thing. I was thinking it's probably more something that staff would deal with regularly. I think they just wanted some clarification on whether or not this is the kind of thing we would want to consider going forward. Basically, it's an advertisement in a booklet, a team booklet, but which would include people from Richmond normally, and it does this year. I'm not sure how many total, but.
And it certainly speaks to, concerns we've already voiced before about sponsorship policies and guidelines to that effect. Happy to entertain a motion if somebody feels strongly about this.
Madam Chair, if I may, where this is really more along an advertisement and a booklet, we do have an advertising budget line as well outside of both sponsorship and grants. Now that's normally used for our public notifications. It's used when we have obligatory ads that we have to put in the paper for water utility tenders, what have you. But we could do an advertisement under that advertising budget line as opposed to a sponsorship if council so chose. It's just with grants, sponsorship, and advertising, the lines are blurring a bit, and we wanted to have it here to have this discussion, because we've also had team sports come at us before as well, where there was a single person from Richmond on the team, and we don't normally do that, so we really are just trying to find what is the right direction to handle these requests, and if it is something that can stay with staff, by all means. We have certain budget lines for these things, and we can take care of them, but looking for some help on this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd be comfortable leaving it with staff, leaving that decision up to them going forward on these kind of issues. I just wanted to bring it here to get a sense of the room first, you know?
Okay, so, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Some of the money that was given to Amens and the Cape Breton Partnership, is that coming out of sponsorship or the promotion and ads? Because the promotions and ad, that wasn't a lot of money, right? $7,000-8,000?
The Cape Breton Partnership is from the sponsors.
It's
on your grant booklet. So.
It's on that, but, and it says,
Partnership is sponsorship, as was the, what was the other one you mentioned? Amans and Recreation Nova Scotia, the St. Peter's Village, the Lennox Passage Yacht Club, and the Pirate Festival and the Acadian Festival. So those are on your grant booklet.
yeah, that's sponsorship.
Yep,
That was just the three of them there.
yep,
And the other one, the ad promotion, is something different.
right.
It is.
So ad and promotion typically has stayed with staff. So I think what, if I understand, is that we're looking to see if staff, if council wants to say no, nay, don't do it, or definitely do it, or to leave it with staff. Go ahead, councillor.
So the $1,000 we gave to Recreation Nova Scotia, and that was sponsorship. And I thought partnership was $2,500. I see they have Investor Summit there, so I don't know why I have confused with that number. It was a $2,500 amount to Amen, so am I wrong?
It's 2,500 to, if I may, Madam Chair, to Cape Breton Partnerships. And yeah,
Because I thought that was under ad and promotions.
yeah, the Investor Summit's 1,250, and Amans was the 2,500 because we were trying to get to the 10,000 as the four municipalities.
Yeah,
As
for the,
host.
what about the Recreation Nova Scotia money? 1,000.
Which we debated and voted on, and we're not going to revisit that. So we,
just asking, was that sponsorship?
yes,
Yes.
it's right there in on the grant booklet. There's 2 pages. Turn the page. It's, yeah, there you go. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. So it's listed there as being part of sponsorship. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So what I'm hearing is that there's no motion necessary. We're going to consider this something similar to items that staff have always dealt with. Okay, great. So there are some items for information only. One is a letter from the municipal affairs, new municipal affairs leader talking about his new role. I will say that he was present for most, if not all, of the NSFM conference this fall, and committed to doing a little bit of a roadshow, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw him. This is the first time that it has been this municipal affairs only. So for the last year, it's been municipal affairs and finance, and then last time it was municipal affairs and housing. So now there is municipal affairs and a separate minister for housing. So information there. There's a letter from Property Valuation Services regarding the Property Assessment and Municipal Modernization Act. That is on page 226 and 227 of your package. And so there are questions around happy to provide additional info. We did have a resident who asked us for more information, so we've actually already reached out to them for some additional information. So as it goes to budget deliberations, we'll have that information for your consideration. Go ahead, Councillor Marchand.
They used to come and present to council. Will that be happening with them at all, so we could ask questions?
They did just before this council, because I watched it. I want to say that was
Maybe 2 years now.
Yeah, were you here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's within 3 years, right? Yeah, so within the second half of the last council that they presented. Would you like to make a motion to invite them? Okay, we have a motion to invite PVSC to do a presentation. We have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brenda Sampson. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the Eastern County Regional Library regarding the announcement of new board chair. Who's the warden from the District of St. Mary's. Letter from Marie Berkey thanking us tremendously for the money that we provide them, and also announcing in her letter, want to give them a little bit of a early shout out that they are celebrating their 20th year in October of 2026. So October 19th, 2026, mark that on your calendar because there's a shindig down at the Adult Drop-In Center. There is a letter to the Honorable John McDonald regarding code of conduct for municipal officials. There is a letter to St. Anne's Center. So last meeting we had a request to send a similar letter that we sent to the fire department, and a letter from the municipality. Sorry, go ahead. Sent. We voted on it at the last meeting, at a council meeting, so I sent it that next day.
Yeah, we hadn't seen that, what you were saying.
Hadn't seen it. No, that's right. I sent it out, and this is correspondence. And letter to the municipality from the municipality of East Hants to the new minister regarding Bill 141. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that. It is typical concerns flagged by many municipalities. We've certainly lodged our thoughts on that. Okay, so, and she includes the letter that we got back in October, I guess. So she references that. So those are correspondence. We have a review of checks issued in your packages from 238 to 244, and review of action items on page 245 to 250. So are there any items anybody would like to flag in those two agenda items? Hearing none. We will move on to items added to the agenda where there was none. And so we'll open the floor up now for 15-minute question period. We'll take any questions from the floor, but also folks, sorry, I'm supposed to read this. Folks watching at home can call 226-9885 if you have any questions for us this evening, and there is no need to be limited by what's on the agenda. You can ask questions about what's on the agenda or otherwise. Sorry, yeah, just say your name and where you're from.
Linus Murray, I'm from West Arishat. So I was wondering, because there is a bill in the Senate right now, Bill S-222. It's for lowering the voting age. And I was wondering if anyone or the municipality would support this, because I know it's federal, but that could be a gateway to municipal governance. So I was wondering if there maybe was a possibility to share that on social media and get more people involved and look into that.
So it is not uncommon for us to write letters of support for topics. And so we usually need a couple things. We need to know whether council as a whole supports that initiative, and we need to know who we would write it to. So for example, I can think of letters that have gone out to the province saying libraries should be better funded. So it's not uncommon for municipalities to do that. So on the matter of whether council has an appetite to support lowering the voting age, which I believe is to 16 that they're looking at, right?
It's actually, I think, ordinance to, looking at the first reading now, it says it would be a Canadian citizen who is 14 or 15 years of age.
Okay.
Wow.
Or, it says future elector means a Canadian citizen is 14 or 15 years of age, and then a qualified elector is 16 years of age. So you're correct. But there's language around future electors. I feel like I want a little more information on that.
Yeah, and I believe future electors, I feel like I shouldn't comment, but my general sense is that future electors would be able to participate in AGMs and that kind of essentially meant to encourage people to get involved so that when they turn 16, they would have some experience with voting and that kind of thing. There have certainly been questions around the continent about voting age. Linking that to, you can drive a car, but you can't vote. I don't know if we want to, would you be open to providing us with a little more information to help us make an informed decision?
Yeah, I have a email that I can forward to you, but I think it's a step in making a pure democracy, having people be able to make a choice, because we let people with inherent disabilities and seniors with dementia or Alzheimer's. And my question would be, what's the difference of letting a immature person or like a child vote? I don't see a clear difference in that.
So I think what makes the most sense is for you to write me a letter. So you can just take your email, couch it in a letter. That would get it into correspondence, which would then allow us to put it on the agenda, and would allow us then to have some conversation about potentially moving something. I would like to see you not just forward us an email in the cut and paste, but I'd like to see an argument to try to convince us. Okay, and Linus is my co-op student, so I'm all over this, so that's great. But yeah, I'm happy to entertain your thoughts, but I think it would be incumbent upon us to get a little more information, and we'd look to you for that. Good, thank you. Okay, so seeing no other questions come forward from the public, we will adjourn. Thank you.